You won't believe what happened to me last weekend at my own home. Something so outrageous, it still has me shaking my head. I was just trying to relax by my pool when this woman's daughter, completely spoiled and full of attitude, marched right up to me and demanded I leave my pool. And why? Because her friends wanted to take over. What made it even crazier was that this wasn't just any random stranger. This girl's mom, Karen, is one of those classic entitled types who always thinks the world owes her something. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. I'm not just some homeowner. I'm the police chief in this town. You'd think that would make a difference, right? Well, it didn't at first. The daughter had no clue who she was talking to and kept acting like she owned the place. The tension grew so thick you could cut it with a knife. I had to decide whether to step back or remind them who's really in charge. But I wanted to handle it the right way. What happened next? Well, that's where things get really intense. You won't want to miss how this showdown unfolds and what Karen's spoiled daughter learns about respect. Stick around, because this story is far from over. To give you some background, Karen and I have known each other for a while, mostly through neighborhood events and local meetings. She's the kind of person who always wants things her way and never misses a chance to make a scene. Her daughter, on the other hand, is a perfect example of what happens when kids grow up with no boundaries, pampered, demanding, and completely blind to how their actions affect others. I've dealt with Karen's attitude before, but this was the first time her daughter actually crossed a serious line in my own backyard. That day, I was looking forward to a quiet afternoon by the pool, just unwinding after a long week. Instead, I got an unexpected lesson in entitlement that quickly turned into a power struggle. When the daughter and her friends showed up, loud and acting like they owned the place, I tried to stay calm and polite. But then she straight up told me to leave the pool area. Can you imagine? Telling the police chief to get out of his own property. The neighborhood is small, and word spreads fast. I started wondering if this was just about a pool, or if there was something deeper going on. Maybe Karen was trying to flex her influence, or her daughter was pushing limits to see how far she could go. Either way, I knew things weren't going to end quietly. What I did next might surprise you, but I had to think carefully before making any move. As the afternoon went on, the situation only got more complicated. Karen showed up herself, flashing that signature smirk like she knew she had the upper hand. She started talking loudly about how her daughter and her friends deserved to use the pool because they were the popular kids. I could tell right away this wasn't just about a pool party. It was about power and control, and Karen was trying to prove a point. It felt like a challenge thrown directly at me, and the whole neighborhood was starting to notice. What made it even messier was the way her daughter's friends jumped in, backing her up without thinking twice. They didn't know who I was, but they acted like they ruled the block. I saw the looks from neighbors watching from their windows, some shocked, some amused, and others clearly annoyed. I had to figure out how to handle the whole group without escalating things into a full-blown neighborhood feud. Meanwhile, a few of my officers were nearby on routine patrol, but I wanted to manage this situation myself. It wasn't just about enforcing rules, it was about respect, community, and setting an example. I kept asking myself, how do you deal with someone who thinks the rules don't apply to them? And how do you protect your own home when it feels like everyone's against you? The tension was thick, and I knew whatever happened next could change how things played out in this quiet neighborhood forever. As the sun started to dip lower, the heat of the day seemed to match the tension boiling over by the pool. Karen's daughter, now fully confident and surrounded by her friends, wasn't backing down. She kept insisting I should leave, raising her voice louder each time. The other kids laughed, egging her on, completely unaware of who I really was. The neighborhood crowd was growing, some stepping outside to see what the commotion was all about. I could feel eyes on me, waiting to see how I'd react. Karen's smirk faded for a moment, replaced by something sharper, like she knew this was turning into more than just a simple argument. Her tone became colder as she started throwing subtle digs, hinting that maybe my position as police chief wouldn't save me from people like them. It was clear she was testing boundaries, trying to push me into making a mistake. Karen's smirk faded for a moment, replaced by something sharper, like she knew this was turning into more than just a simple argument. Her tone became colder as she started throwing subtle digs, hinting that maybe my position as police chief wouldn't save me from people like them. It was clear she was testing boundaries, trying to push me into making a mistake. My mind raced. I wanted to keep control, to avoid a scene that could blow up bigger than just a neighborhood dispute, but the disrespect felt personal, and the stakes suddenly felt much higher. What would happen if I said or did the wrong thing? Would this spiral into something that could ruin years of work-building trust in the community? Everyone was waiting. The air was thick with silence just before a storm. And then, right when I thought things couldn't get worse, the daughter took a step forward, crossing a line I never expected. Just when I thought I had seen it all, Karen's daughter did something that caught everyone completely off guard. Instead of just yelling or demanding again, she pulled out her phone and started recording me, right there in my own backyard. She was live streaming the whole thing to who knows how many viewers, twisting the story as if *I* was the problem. Suddenly, this wasn't just a neighborhood spat anymore. It was turning into a public showdown. The friends around her cheered her on, feeding off the chaos she was creating. That moment changed everything. The tension went from uncomfortable to explosive. Karen's eyes flashed with a dangerous kind of satisfaction, clearly enjoying the chaos her daughter was stirring up. The neighbors watching through their windows were now whispering about the police chief losing control, and I could feel the weight of their judgment piling on me. It felt like my authority was being questioned, not just in my home, but in front of the entire community. I knew that if I reacted harshly, it could blow up into a media nightmare. But if I backed down, it might signal weakness, and Karen's family would only push harder next time. I had to think fast, but with every second ticking by, the pressure was mounting. The lines between personal and professional blurred, and the question looming in my mind was clear. How far would I go to protect my home and my reputation without losing control? The situation was spiraling, and the climax was right around the corner. Only one thing was certain: this was far from over. With the phone still recording, I took a deep breath and decided it was time to step up, not with anger, but with calm authority. I told Karen's daughter firmly that this was my property, and while I understood she wanted to hang out with her friends, respect was non-negotiable. I asked her to turn off the live stream and explained that this wasn't some online game or viral video. It was real life, with real people affected. The crowd around us quieted down, sensing that this moment was serious. Then, just as things seemed to be settling, Karen stepped forward, surprisingly softer than before. She admitted her daughter had been acting out because of some recent struggles: pressure at school, feeling invisible at home, and wanting attention the wrong way. For a moment, the tension shifted from confrontation to understanding. I offered to help, not as the police chief, but as a neighbor willing to listen. The friends around started to disperse, and the daughter looked embarrassed, finally realizing the weight of her actions. But just when I thought the worst was behind me, the daughter hesitated and said quietly, "Wait, there's one more thing you don't know." Everyone looked at her, breath held. She pulled out a small, folded note she had secretly written, a message that hinted at something deeper going on behind the scenes. Whatever was written there promised to change everything we thought we knew about this neighborhood drama. The story wasn't over after all. The note the daughter handed me was unexpected, but instead of causing more drama, it opened a door to something important. Inside, she had written about feeling overwhelmed by expectations, not just from her mom, but from everyone around her. It was a raw, honest glimpse into why she acted out so badly. That moment changed everything for me. It wasn't just after that day. Karen and I started talking more honestly, trying to find ways to support her daughter rather than just clash. The neighborhood slowly settled back into its usual rhythm, but with a new sense of awareness. I realized being the police chief isn't just about enforcing rules. It's about building trust and helping people grow, even when it's tough.